Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Slam Talk Sports. It is a glorious Friday afternoon here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, the home of football, hell, the home of sport. It is the sporting capital of the world, and of course, it is the Friday preview show, which means there is 8 huge games of AFL action to preview and 1 game to review from last night. Hello, everybody. It is good to be back on Slam Talk Sports. It is, of course, Slam in your ears. As always, Mr. Darcy Duncan, you know where to find me on the socials. It is Slam Talk Sports on Instagram and TikTok, and Darcy_Duncan21 on Twitter. And before I get into last night's game, another disappointing defeat for my Essendon Football Club. Before I preview a huge round 24, can you believe this home and away season is finally over? I mean, I say finally over because it's been going for about 10 months. Opening round still hasn't finished yet. But before we get into all of that, we've got to talk about the news. I'll start with the big news. The big news is, of course, Isaac Rankin. One of my favourite players, I must say, off the top. He has done some terrible things over the last week. Firstly, he said a homophobic slur directed at a Collingwood player, which has rightfully delivered a 4-match suspension that should theoretically rule him out for the rest of the home and away season and the AFL finals if the Adelaide Crows are to win their first final. That's the first bad thing he did. The second bad thing is to corroborate with the Adelaide Football Club to delay this decision for at least 3 days before we got the final verdict, before we got the sanction handed down. And the reason due to that was compelling medical circumstances. Now, I consider myself a smart human being, if not a semi-intelligent one, but I'm dumbfounded. I'm absolutely rooted. I cannot understand how this 4-game suspension is now in place. We got 5-game suspension for Riak Andrew earlier in the year in the VFL for a homophobic slur. We got 5-game suspension for Mr. William Powell from the Gold Coast Suns for a similar homophobic slur. Jack Graham got 4 games for a homophobic slur and self-reported, which is why the AFL was far more lenient on him. But as we sit here today, Isaac Rankin, one of the best players in the competition, one of my favourite players to watch, has only been given a 4-match suspension. When AFL, through their precedents, through the previous suspensions that's handed down, had to give him 5 games. How did we get to this point in time? How did we settle on a lenient suspension for one of the best players in the game? It is because the AFL are absolutely clueless. I'm sorry to say they do not know what they're doing down there. This is another instance in a long line of poor decision-making from the current administration at AFL House. A homophobic slur has no place in life, let alone on a footballing field. It should be a minimum 4-week suspension if that is what the base sanction was. But it is a 5-week suspension. That is what the AFL handed down over the last 24 months, and that's what Isaac Rankin should have received. The fact that is not the case, due to compelling medical circumstances, due to things that shouldn't matter when you come to the tribunal or when the AFL are looking to suspend someone, affecting the decision is an absolute disgrace, and it shows the state of the AFL right now. There's not too much more I need to say. I mean, obviously, Isaac Rankin's mental health is of paramount importance to the Adelaide Football Club and the AFL, which is a big reason why he got 4 games. But I'm sorry, you took 3 days to figure that out while everyone was able to speculate and there was constant conjecture over what he said, who he said it to, and if he deserves this suspension. I think that contributed to the destruction and the denigration of his own mental health. So those 3 days where Isaac didn't leave the house while you deliberated on his suspension, do you not think that would have affected his mental health? Do you not think he could have come down with a sanction and a suspension and a decision early on Tuesday, late on Monday, early on Wednesday, not Thursday, 3.5 days after it was first reported? It was reported Sunday night and we got a decision on Thursday. This just shows the ineptitude and the lack of intelligence and capability of the people at AFL House. And I'm sorry, I've said this all year, they simply do not know what they're doing. I mean, we saw Willie Rioli not get suspended for threatening Ballydale, threatening his life effectively, saying he's going to put his mates onto him and they're going to sort him out. No suspension. Then days later, a 1-week suspension. And now, a 5-week suspension or a 4-week suspension in this instance for a homophobic slur. The AFL do not have set penalties for any of these things. They make them up as they go, which is why there's outcry from the lesbian, gay, queer community saying, how can this be lenient? How can this be less than what you've said before? And there's outcry from the other people, the AFL community, saying, oh, this shouldn't even be suspension. This shouldn't be 4 weeks. That's the same as knocking someone out. Whether you sit either side of the argument doesn't really matter to me. It is the lack of accountability and the lack of consistency which troubles me most when it comes to the AFL and how they come to these decisions. That's what I'm going to say on the Isaac Rankin decision. Also, in the news this week, Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller re-signed for 2 more years at the St. Kilda Football Club. A great news story for footy fans and a great news story for the St. Kilda Football Club to retain the services of their best player. Now, of course, he had a lot of interest from Adelaide and Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide even offered $30 million, it's been reported, for a 12-year deal, which would be the longest contract by far in the history of the AFL. And it was knocked back by Nazaya. So I see this as just a great, great, great story for St. Kilda, for people that love watching Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller, and most importantly, for teams that are struggling or in the bottom 6 or bottom 8, you can hold on to your players. You can build a culture that would want them to stick around and hopefully foster them to be part of your next premiership side. I love the fact that Nazaya is staying at St. Kilda. I'm not a St. Kilda supporter. I know 2 St. Kilda supporters. I know 3 St. Kilda supporters in my existence, in my community, in my walk of life, okay? And they are over the moon, which is great to see because they've lost Tony Lockett. They've lost Brendan Goddard. They've lost players in the past. They haven't won a premiership, and it'll be 60 years next year. So to keep their most dynamic, compelling, intriguing, and honestly just brilliant to watch player. I'm trying to find the words to talk about Nazaya. He is just majestic. He is the Messiah. So the fact he is staying at Moorabbin is great to fucking see. Sorry for swearing, mum. Okay. That's the news stories from this past week in the AFL. Let's talk about last night's game. Essendon went down to the Carlton Football Club at a margin of, what was the margin, everybody? Because it seemed like it was more just a couple of goals, but at the end of the day, it was 34 points that Carlton defeated Essendon by the MCG in front of 41,000 fans in Zach Merritt's 250th game. It was a game that never reached any great heights. It was a lot of disposals and not much skill. High disposals, low skill. Low intensity, high blood alcohol ratings, because everyone was pissed at that game from what I could see, all right? Carlton bitterly disappointed with their season. I think they had premiership fancies on themselves. They thought they were definitely a finals team, potentially a premiership contender, and to beat Essendon by 5 goals and beat them early in the year on King's birthday eve, that is nice for the Carlton fans. That gives them something to pat themselves on the back about. It keeps them warm at night when they're looking at the news and see Tom De Koning has left and they see Jack Silvani has left in the next couple of weeks' time. That keeps them happy. I mean, I saw Tom Elliott last night. And by the way, what are your thoughts, people, on the full kit when you are in your 50s? Okay, he had a knitted Carlton jumper over the top of a shirt in the MCC with jeans, I think, or pants, and some nice shoes. What are your thoughts on being the full kit, knitted kit, let alone from the 80s, probably from his dad or Alec Jesselinko himself? What are your thoughts on that? I don't know where I sit, because my great friend Nick Karikas, my former podcast co-host and still former co-host, current great friend, he's a big proponent of the full kit. I mean, I've seen him wear Dacos kit, Dacos shorts, and even the boots sometimes to games in case he needs to get called up onto the ground because people aren't doing their jobs and I have to do them for them, as he says. So where do you sit with the full kit scenario? I'm still on the fence about it because it comes grand final day. You think I'm not going to dust off my James Hird jersey? I mean, obviously we're not going to be playing. It's going to be 2080, but I'm still not sure where they sit on that side of the fence. But yes, I saw Tom Elliott last night, and Carlton fans were very happy with their effort last night, despite the fact it was a low-intensity game. We saw George Hewitt have another strong game in what will be a best and fairest winning season, in my opinion. We saw Jacob Wiedering absolutely dominate in the back half of Carlton. He had another strong season for the Blues. Patrick Cripps, after his usual tricks, he usually has a pretty poor record against the Essendon Football Club. He was very good last night. And Sam Walsh, for my mind, was best on ground through the first 3 quarters before he was subbed out with about 28 touches. He was great, Walshy. I was against him coming back, but considering the fact that he's now had 2 really strong games, coming back from that foot injury, that could hold him in good stead for next year. Walsh is so important to Carlton. He's a free agent next year as well. They need to get him up and running if they're ever going to achieve any great heights in this competition. And similar to Charlie Curnow, when he came back from his consistent knee injuries, similar to Riley Thilthorpe last year, coming back from his knee injuries, getting 2-3 games in could actually be crucial in setting them up for their preseason and the season the following year. So I love the fact that Walshy came back. I was wrong. Great to see one of the great runners and great midfielders in this competition back up and running. On the Essendon side of things, 12 losses in a row. Probably the worst year I can ever remember from the Essendon Football Club. Now, in 2016, Essendon won, I think, 2 or 3 games as part of the drug saga, the after effects, the flow-on effects, where they had a bunch of top-ups. They had, 34 players suspended in the 2016 season. I think this is worse than that because we will finish the year with 13 straight losses. We have 18 players effectively on the injury list. We had Zach Merritt last night, again, be our best player with one hand in his 250th game. Where do you start with the Bombers in terms of correcting this list, in terms of getting them back on track? They have 2 of the top 6 picks in this year's draft. Probably goes out to about picks 9, 10 or 11 once the academies come in. So the Bombers, if you're listening to this, where do they want to start with their list overhaul? Do they need a key forward? Do they need an inside midfielder? Do they need a strong defender because you can't trust the guys down back? I think Essendon, considering the state of their list, it is best available. Whatever you think is best available, that includes Matt Rosa, it includes the recruiting staff, it includes Brad Scott as well. Who do you think can help take you to the next level over the next 10 to 12 years? That's the player you pick. You don't pick a halfback flanker or a half forward just because you don't have one right now. Because in reality, Essendon are at least 4 to 5 years away from any sort of realistic contention, let alone a finals appearance, which could be 2 to 3 years away. That is just my opinion. Essendon, a disastrous season. They'll probably lose Sam Draper in the next couple of weeks as well. What that compensation pick flushes out as, we still don't know yet. We expect Oscar Allen to get compensation pick for West Coast, which will be likely pick 2, considering West Coast are last on the ladder. Now, Sam Draper's contract might not be the same as Oscar Allen's, which would push it back to the end of the first round. But Essendon have a lot of decisions to make this off-season. Similar to the St. Kilda Football Club, it is their biggest off-season in a long, long time. Now, the Saints have already started with signing Nazire and likely signing Tom de Koning. It is your move, Essendon. What do you do next? You have salary cap space. It looks like Harley Reid is not coming. It seems like Zach Butters is definitely not coming back to Victoria. So what do you do next? It's over to you, Matt Rosa and Brad Scott. That's it for last night's game. Oh, want to mention a couple of Essendon youngsters as well. Obviously, by the way, Evans from Carlton, Francis Evans, kicked, 3 goals. He's looking like a nice player since he got knocked out by Stephen May. He's become, Eddie Betts since then. But also on the Essendon side of things, I like Isaac Kako. 20 touches, 2 goals, his best game for the club. And young Angus Clark had about 27 disposals. I think it was his best game since his first game against Richmond. A lot of intercept possessions as well. I think Essendon have found a couple of nice young players in addition to Zach Johnson who could help be part of the best 22 next season. That's it for last night's game. It's time to look forward to the best round of football for the year. It is round 24, 8 big games, finals on the line. Let's go. Now, the first game we want to talk about is Friday night football at the MCG. Collingwood take on the Melbourne Football Club. Now, the line in this one is 23.5 points in the Pies' favour. I think it's a little bit light on considering the Pies have so much to play for and potentially could still get a top 4 position if things fall their way. In for the Collingwood Football Club, we have Jeremy Howe returning from his concussion that he suffered in the opening stages of their game against the Hawthorn Football Club. But also coming in, we have Rowan Steele, who actually dominated last week in the VFL. I think he had about 32 touches. Interesting they bring him in for this big game. They must think he's part of their best 23 or 24 going forward into the final series because Collingwood don't really have a lot of injuries. I mean, you look at their list right now, it's just Bobby Hill, who's not actually listed on the injury report. So you want to say, Collingwood, they lost Bobby Hill, they lost their forward structure, they're out of form. In reality, they don't have injuries. This is their team. Next week or the week after when they play in the final series, that should be their team as well. Close to it. Everyone's got injuries. Everyone's missing players. Hawthorn are missing Will Day. They're missing Josh Weddle as well. Brisbane are missing Lachie Neale. They're missing Jack Payne. They're missing some crucial players at Brisbane who are part of their best 22. Obviously, Hipwood as well is now out on Sunday night. So for Collingwood, there really are no excuses in the coming weeks. How do I assess this? I think Collingwood will win by about 30 plus points. I think that margin is light on, considering the fact that Collingwood have so much to play for and Melbourne have absolutely nothing to play for. Essendon own Melbourne's first round pick, so I see Collingwood getting the job done quite easily tonight. Excuse me for 1 second while I burp. Thank you very much. On the betting side of things, I like Joshy Dacos to have 25 plus disposals. That's about $1.20. You can go all the way up to about 30 disposals. The only thing is Josh hasn't been in tremendous form in the last few weeks. He's gone under this number in his last 2 games. He copped attention last week in the form of Lockie Murphy from the Adelaide Football Club, but I do think he'll bounce back. I like to back the Dacosses in bounce-back games. I think Josh against a Melbourne Football Club, which has given up a lot of disposals to halfback flankers and midfielders over the last few weeks, I think he's at a nice spot to bounce back. I must mention Nick Dacos. Yes, the Brownlow favourite. Will he have a big game tonight? We know what happened last time he played against Melbourne. Ed Langdon tagged him to a very paltry output for the whispering Nicky Dacos. Do I think the same thing will happen tonight? Well, I'd be listening to the pre-game. I'll be listening to what Troy Chaplin says, listening to the radio, watching Fox Footy. The game starts at 7:10. Now, traditionally, they start doing interviews with coaches probably about 6:10, 6:15. You might even get them about 5-10 minutes before the bounce, which makes it pretty hard. But I'll be seeing what they want to do with Langdon on Nick Dacos. If there is no tag, Nick could have 40 touches, be a Supercoach VC. He could absolutely go off and win the Brownlow tonight. But I'm interested to see what Melbourne want to do in a game that doesn't mean a whole lot to them, but they are playing for pride against a team they strongly dislike. Finally, milestones. It is Tim Membry's 200th game. He's been a great pickup for the Pies this year, coming over from St. Kilda. I think he's going to have a crucial role to play in their finals series. Let's move on to the other Friday night game. And it is Ken's farewell and Travis Boak's farewell. And, of course, my friend Rory Atkins' farewell as well. Port Adelaide taking on the Gold Coast Suns at the Adelaide Oval. 8:10 start time here on the East Coast. It is a line of 24.5 points in the Gold Coast Suns' favour. These are your ins and your outs. In for the Port Adelaide Football Club, we've got Harrison Rahm. No relation to John Rahm, I hope. Never heard of that player in my life. In comes Rory Atkins as well. And in comes Ewan McKinley. Now, a lot of super coaches out there had Ewan McKinley as their rolling zero. Unfortunately, he'll be playing tonight, so you can't use him. Potentially, he could be your emergency if he gets the full game in. But yes, Ewan McKinley, you cannot use him as a loop tonight. He might play and get some points, but he cannot be your zero, obviously, because they're playing on Friday night football. Out for Port Adelaide goes Josh Sin, Ollie Wines, what a joke that was, and Will Lorenz, who's been a very handy player for my Supercoach team. On the Gold Coast side of things, in comes Lachlan Goulburn for his debut game. What a game to debut in, and out goes Nick Holman. The line, as I said, is 24.5 points. I'm not as keen on the line, even though I know Gold Coast are incentivized to win and win big in their last 2 games. I haven't got full confidence in what is an emotional big game for Port Adelaide that Gold Coast are going to put them to the absolute sword. Matchup-wise, Gold Coast don't tag. They haven't tagged all year. They love to go head-to-head, which also means opposition midfielders have put up decent numbers, decent Supercoach scores, and had good performances against this Gold Coast Suns midfield. On the betting side of things, I don't mind Noah Anderson 30-plus touches. He is one of the best midfielders in the competition. When he is untagged, he flirts with the 35-40 disposal mark. Also, don't mind Zach Butters 30-plus touches. Now, the odds are better for Butters than you would at his 30 mark, than his 25 mark, which I think is an absolute lock. Does he get to 30? Well, again, Gold Coast don't tag. There'll be no attention. It is Ken Hinkley's final game. We know how much he loves Ken. So I think Zach will be going out there potentially to secure another All-Australian Blazer, but also to have a strong end to this season, which has been bitterly disappointing for Port Adelaide. Also, don't mind, this is a rogue one. Travis Boak, 25 disposals. Now, Boakey had 45% CBAs last week against the Carlton Football Club when they got absolutely smashed at Marvel. But also, in the aftermath of that game, Ollie Wines was suspended for 3 weeks for a bump. Wasn't even a bump on Cooper Lord. I hope this means that Travis Boak, in his final game, is given the Kobe Bryant treatment, where he's thrust straight into the guts, has 25-30 touches, kicks a goal, and gets 110, 120 Supercoach points, but also has a very nice farewell in what is his last game in front of his adoring fans over at the Adelaide Oval. I think Travis Boak could absolutely go off tonight. 20 touches is about $1.25. 25 touches is a nice price, about $1.80. Invest how you wish, everybody. And Boak goal. I don't mind Boak goal as well. This was tipped to me by the great Footy Form Guide podcast, Harrow and Wally. Harrow said that Boakey is about $2 for a goal, and they'll be finding ways to get him the footy. And I tend to agree. In these final games, in these dead rubbers, players' last games, you try to find a way to get them involved. I think back to only, 4 or 5 weeks ago when Sam Doherty played his final game, and he had a couple of shots a goal and kicked a goal in a game that really had no pressure in it. It was Thursday Night Football against Hawthorn, who were just looking to get the points and get out of there. I think there'll be an opportunity for Boakey to kick a goal tonight, and at $2, considering he's kicked goals in the last month, that is a very nice price. Boak's final game, Ken Hinkley's final game, Rory Atkins' final game, 150th game for Connor Rozee as well. It should be a cracker on Friday night footy. Let's look forward, though, to a big Saturday of round 24. We start at Marvel Stadium as North Melbourne host the Adelaide Football Club. In for North Melbourne, Aidan Corr and Zach Bunch. Out, Cameron Zurhaar and Matt Whitlock, the former top pick from last year. Matt Whitlock, even though he was picked like 18, effectively treated as about pick 2 or 3. During the fact they traded it to Richmond. Okay. Adelaide, in comes Rory Laird, in comes Sid Draper, in comes Billy Dowling, out goes Lachlan Murphy, Isaac Rankin with his 4-game suspension, and Harry Schonberg. He's been omitted. The line for this one is 35.5 points. And at first glance, that seems pretty light on. Adelaide still want to win this game. There could be an emotional response after the week they've had in the media with one of their best players being on the name, or be on the tip of everyone's lips for the best part of 4 days, which is also the AFL's doing in this instance. And also the fact that Adelaide win, they come top. If they lose, which I don't think will happen, the Cats theoretically would go into top position. So I think Adelaide want to come top. I think they want to thrash is the wrong way. I think they want to put in a good performance against North Melbourne, win that game, carry some form into their first final of the Adelaide Oval. 36 points, considering North smashed Richmond, that might have been their grand final. That might have been the game they put everything into, and this could be a flat spot against the best team in the competition. I personally would be betting Adelaide 20 plus. I think they'll win by at least 20 points. You might get about $1.50 on those odds. North Melbourne are going to put in a good performance in front of their home fans, but realistically, they're ready for Bali, a lot of these players. They had a great performance, a great response in front of a lot of their home fans in Tasmania in their final game in Tasmania as one of the tenant clubs there in the Apple Isle. But I think this is a letdown spot. I think Adelaide get the job done. Betting-wise, I'd be looking at players that have a lot to play for personally this round, and I start with Jordan Dawson. Dawson can still win the North medal. He can win that, though. Jordan Dawson can still win the Brownlow medal. He's had some great best-on-ground performances over the last couple of weeks. This presents another opportunity against a North Melbourne midfield who hasn't been going absolutely gangbusters the last couple of months. Dawson is one of the best players in the competition. He'll be looking to clinch the Brownlow, potentially, if he gets 3 votes on Saturday afternoon, and to clinch the number 1 seed for this season. I like Dawson, 20 plus touches, 25 plus touches. The value is probably in the 25, but if you look at Sportsbet, you can do the alternate disposal markets. 21, 22, still $1.20, $1.30. I think that represents nice value for one of the best players in the competition. Let's move forward to Saturday afternoon / twilight footy at the MCG. Richmond host the Geelong Football Club. These are your ins and your outs. By the way, the line is 51.5 points. For the Richmond Football Club, in comes Josh Gibkiss and Luke Traynor. Out goes Nick Vlaston. What a big out that is. And out goes Steely Green. In for Geelong comes Jed Buse, and out goes Shannon Neal. He's saying, what? I got suspended. What about me? What about all these things that get done every week that don't get suspended for? It was barely a forearm to the head. I mean, come on. Footy, you should be allowed to punch people in the back of the head in footy. I'm just joking. Neil out is great for my Supercoach team. Jezza wants to kick 8, I think, on Saturday. At least 8. Maybe potentially 18 and equal Fred Fanning's record. How am I reading this game from a betting side of things? Well, it's hard with the disposals because Bally Smith and Max Holmes are the 2 players that you usually want to bet on at Geelong. They're the high possession getters. They look to get them the ball wherever they can, particularly on the wings and on the half-back line where they're so damaging with their running power. I'm looking to avoid them just because there's no value. If you really want to go to 35 touches for Bally Smith and 30 touches for Max Holmes, you can do that. Richmond are a very easy matchup for midfielders. We just saw Harry Sheasel had 54 touches. We just saw Luke Davies-Uniacke have 40 touches. We saw Wardlaw have a nice game. We saw McKercher have 29 touches. Everyone kind of filled up against Richmond. Will they do the same? Will they fold back, or will they play like one-on-one and try and beat Geelong at their own game? Depends how you want to do it. Do you want to lose by 80, or do you want to lose by 30? Potentially 40, and Geelong is saying, oh, you're flooding everyone back. We're going to put the queue in the rack here in the last quarter, get everyone right, cherry ripe for finals, get everyone fit and ready to go for the big game in 2 weeks' time. That's why I don't love Holmes and Smith disposal bets. I do not mind Myers and Atkins for around the 20 disposal mark. They're guaranteed to have no real attention. They just roam around wherever they want, and the odds are usually better on those two players just because Holmes and Smith are so prolific. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say Jezza to kick a bag. I mean, we've been waiting for it for weeks. Now, I brought in Jezza to my Supercoach team when they played Port Adelaide at the Cattery. Was that nearly a month ago now? And he was all right, but he kicked, I think, 5 in that game. And that's the most he's kicked in a game, I'm pretty sure, since the North game. Is that correct? Has he kicked more in a game since then? He hasn't kicked an absolute dead set bag since he kicked 11 against North Melbourne. I think this could be the opportunity. 4 goals for Jezza is about $2. Now, $2 for a player that's kicked 79 goals this year and is in, I think he's in hunting form. I think he's hungry. I think he can get the taste of a tiger on his lips. Now, the outdoor athlete is known to absolutely hunt down other animals, particularly sheep, who have gone roaming through the wrong paddock. But I think he's going to hunt down a couple of tigers on Saturday afternoon. He kicks 4 goals, potentially more. A Jezza ladder could be on the cards because we know that Jezza ain't going to be sitting in that last quarter. With 100 goals still at play, even 90 goals still at play, a career high for Jezza, I still think he's going to be going hard in that fourth to kick as many goals as possible. And the Cats will be incentivised to give him the damn ball with no Neil out there as well. And potentially with Dangerfield resting on the bench deep into the later stages of this game. Cats by 50. They should. They really should win by 50. Am I really, really incentivized to take that bet? Let's have a closer look at it once we see the teams and we see what they're going to do on Saturday. Hopefully get some information from Uze on how he wants to play, as they mentioned on the Footy Form Guide podcast. But I'm not that enthused with the 50-point line right now, but they will win by 40 plus. So potentially we adjust that to get the line we want and the odds we kind of agree with. Okay, let's move forward to Saturday night football over in Perth. It is the West Coast Eagles hosting the Sydney Swans in what is the second dead rubber of this weekend. Now, Carlton Essendon was a game that meant absolutely nothing. This is a game that means sweet stuff also. We won't even talk about it. No, I'm just joking. We will talk about it. In for the West Coast Eagles comes Luca Grego, who's his debut game, and in comes Tyrell Dewar, the man who did his hamstring standing up fishing. Out goes Ryan Marrick, and out goes Matthew Owies. And for the Sydney Swans, in comes Brodie Grundy. So good to have you back, my Grundle baby. In comes Riley Bice, baby. Another great Supercoach selection this season. And in comes Corey Warner. Out goes sweet Peter Laddams. Out goes Caden Cleary. And out goes Jesse Datoli. The margin for this one is, I think it's about 40. Sorry, my stats guy, who's also named Darcy Duncan, hasn't put the margin on my run sheet here for me. The Eagles are $5.30. The Swans are $1.15. And the line is 30.5 points. It's hard to predict that line because it's a dead rubber. What is incentivizing the Swans to go out there and thump West Coast other than giving themselves some confidence going into the next season? Nothing really. So it's probably not a game I'm that keen on betting on because the result really doesn't mean anything at all. I don't mind disposals, those in this one. Errol Goulden in the big ground over at Optus Stadium, and also the fact that he's coming back from that injury now. He's fully healthy. It's been, he came back about round 13, 14. We've had a good 2+ months of Goulden up and running. I think 25 touches is well in play against a very porous Eagles team, particularly their midfield, which gives up a lot of disposals to classy ball users. I also don't mind Chad Warner. Now, Chad Warner has been a little bit of a burn man for people in their multis this year, but coming up against West Coast, going back to his home state of Western Australia, I think he'll look to put an impression on this West Coast Eagles team and have 21, 22, 23 touches. 25 touches for the Chad is a nice price. Personally, I'm going to probably juice it down to about 21, 22. I think in this game, a low-pressure game from the Eagles, he should easily get that mark, and Errol Goulden should hit his line as well. The other player I want to mention is Isaac Heaney. Now, Isaac, hasn't been that consistent with his disposals. Excuse me one more time. I need to burp again. Now, Isaac hasn't been as consistent with his disposals this year, but he has kicked 36 goals, which is fantastic. His career high is 46 back in 2022. I think a Heaney ladder wouldn't be the worst thing. We saw him kick 5 goals a couple of weeks ago. Who did he kick 5 goals against? Against Brisbane at the Gabba, of course. And we saw him kick 5 goals at the SCG against Carlton early in the year as well. I've just got a feeling. I've got a feeling he might go kick 3-4 goals in this one. You're going to get a nice price. I think 3 goals is like $2.80. Now, he's going to have a few shots. He might miss a couple. But against West Coast, he could be looking to get to 40 goals for the second time in his career and solidify his position on the half-forward line of the All-Australian team. You kick 40 goals, you're in. I'm sorry. Because you're a true half-forward who can play mid. You're not a mid who's kicked 20 goals from the midfield. You've kicked 40 goals playing half-forward mid. Isaac Heaney, one of the top 10 players in the competition this year. I think he kicks a couple of goals against the Eagles and solidifies his All-Australian position. Also, I can mention Brodie Grundy, but I'm probably not going to bet on Grundy coming off a concussion. Now, you can say, Slam, he's your Supercoach VC. I mean, you're backing him in anyway. Yes, I am, but I don't know how well a player will play post-concussion. I've seen in the past players struggle. I've seen players dominate. So it's a hard one for me to invest hard-earned money on. Supercoach, that's different. That's rigged, okay? So I'm happy to put Grundy as my VC in Supercoach. Let's move forward to Sunday. Oh, yes. This is what we've been talking about all year, ladies and gentlemen. This is the reason why we watch this damn game. It is Super Sunday. We have 3 huge games which will decide the makeup of the AFL finals. But to start it off, the first game means absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. We go to NG Stadium to see the GBS Giants take on the St. Kilda Football Club. Now, obviously, it is Friday afternoon, so we still have initial squads for the Giants. Coming into their squad are some big names, some big names. We've got Jack Buckley, their stalwart key defender. Hopefully he gets up for Sunday's game. Give himself a little bit of continuity heading to the final series in which he'll be so important in. Also, Stormy Daniels himself, Brent Daniels, is back into the GBS Giants squad. He's missed so much time with a myriad of injuries this season. I love Stormy Daniels. I think he's going to have a big say in the finals if he's fit and firing and up and running. Hopefully he gets up for Sunday's contest as well. And the Leaky Cauldron himself, Mr. James Leake, is named in an extended squad. I don't know if he will be selected on Sunday. And St. Kilda, we've got 3 names into their extended bench. Isaac Keeler, Jack Carroll, and the Irishman, who just received another contract. In addition, Keeler, who got a 1-year deal as well. Liam O'Connell has gotten a 1-year deal, and he is in their extended bench. The margin for Sunday's game is 25.5 points. Giants can't move, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they cannot get into the top 4 based on their current position. So say they win, get to 64 points, Collingwood will win, and they've got a better percentage. So unless somehow Melbourne rolled Collingwood, the Giants can't go higher than 5th on the ladder, which would mean they have a home final back at NG Stadium in 2 weeks' time. And I'm pretty tempted to think that they're going to win that game. The Giants have a great record of winning finals pretty much every time they're in them. Last year was the anomaly. They lost back-to-back finals in Sydney. Lost to the Sydney Swans at the SCG, then lost to the Brisbane Lions at NG Stadium. You look at their history under Leon Cameron, look at their history under Adam Kingsley, they win finals every year, which I don't mind betting on Giants players with Norm Smith, because if they get on a run, you're getting huge odds on a team outside the 4, which wins anywhere, anytime. That was the motto of the Sydney Swans, in 2012 when they won the flag. It is now the motto of the GWS Giants that they can go to any stadium in Australia and win a big game. Back to Sunday's game, though, Giants will win. I don't love any disposal bets because the game doesn't mean a whole heap to the Giants, and they will win this one. Saints-wise, it's going to be hard because I know the Giants will win. I know they'll probably win by 30-plus points as well, so I'm not as keen on betting on the Saints market. So the only player I bet on at St. Kilda is Nazaya Wanganeen-Millera. Do I think he's going to have a strong game? Potentially, but also there's the potential for Toby Bedford tag just to show they can tag again. There's potential that it becomes a blowout and Nazaya just has 30 touches but doesn't really do a lot with them. and they get a great price for 30 touches. So I'm probably going to stay away from this game. There's only one thing I don't hate, and that is Toby Green goals. Toby Green is 3 goals off 40 goals. Whether that means anything to him at all, I do not know. But we do know that Jesse Hogan is still out of the team with his foot injury. So Toby is one of the focal points of their attack right now. 2 goals is $1.50. Last 5 games for Toby. 3 goals, 2 goals, 1 goal, 3 goals, 2 goals. I'm pretty sure that is correct. He's kicked 2+ goals in 4 of his last 5 games for $1.50 against a team playing for nothing. I don't think that is a bad price. Giants will win, guys. Come on, let's be serious. Let's move forward to the biggest game of the round. It is finally time for the Guts Up Cup. The Western Bulldogs host the Fremantle Football Club at Marvel Stadium on Sunday afternoon. Initial squads are out. Extended benches. These are the teams as they currently sit. For the Doggies, in comes Nick Caulfield, Arthur Jones, and Liam Jones. I don't expect any of those players to play on Sunday. And for Freo, in comes Hayden Young, Oscar McDonald, and Brandon Walker. We know Hayden Young, if fit, will absolutely come into Fremantle's team. McDonald and Walker are still question marks. Considering that Freo haven't done too much changes to the team in the last couple of weeks, I only really see Youngie coming in. And the Doggies, well, they're pretty settled in their ways. They've won 16 of 18 at Marvel Stadium. They're an absolute juggernaut under the lid, so I can't see them making any changes to their team as well. The margin is 20.5 points the Doggies' way. They're so damn good at this stadium. It's going to be hard to look past them if you think they're going to win this game. 20 points, it's not a lot, but considering that it is a finals-like game, probably not too interested in the margin in this one. The Dogs are going to win. Let's be serious. The Dogs are going to win. And if they don't, Kane Corns, 6:01 Monday, is going to hunt them. Like an absolute deer, like an antelope, like a big buck hunter that used to play at Time Zone, okay? Kane Corns has said, Sam Darcy and Marcus Bontempelli are the 2 best players in the league, and Luke Beveridge better bloody win this game, okay? And I agree with him. Whoa, what's that? Wait, what's this? Balloons. I don't know if you're watching me on YouTube, but there was balloons that just came up. Is that for the Guts Up Cup? I don't know. But hey, anyone celebrating, congratulations. Hope you have a great Sunday. I'll be having the Guts Up Cup barbecue at mine with a couple of friends, Marcus from Hawthorn, Xander from the Vale, and Corey from the Meadows. All 3 of us will be watching the footy. What is going to be a big game? But back to the result, the Doggies should win. Betting-wise, it's a tough one because it is going to be such a tight contest with a finals-like atmosphere. I don't hate Jordan Clark, 20+ touches, 25+ touches. Now, the Doggies have allowed high touches to halfbacks and designated kickers over the last month or so. They allowed McKercher and Daniel to both have high disposal numbers. And as we saw in the absolute destruction of the Giants about a month ago, Lachie Whitfield and Lachie Ash both had huge numbers. If you think this is going to be a competitive game, then I still think Jordan Clark will be involved kicking the football around the halfback flanks. If you think it's going to be an absolute blowout, well, that suits him better because the ball's going to be living down at that end. I like Clarkey on Sunday in a big spot and potentially to clinch his first All-Australian Blazer. Doggies will get the job done, in my opinion, but I would love to see Freo put up a fight, and I'd love to see Nat Fyfe play the full game in what is likely his last game of football if they don't make finals. Hopefully, we get an absolute classic on Sunday under the lid. Now, finally, there's one more game, just the one more game left in round 24. Let's go to the Gabba. Hawthorn travel up north to Brisbane to take on the Brisbane Lions in what is Dane Zorko's 300th game and Charlie Cameron's 250th game. The line for Sunday night is very measly. They're not too confident either way on who's going to win this one. The Lions, as you would expect, are favoured by 8.5 points in what should be a gripping contest to decide the top 4 positions. In to the Brisbane squad here on a Friday afternoon with the extended squads is Kyle Lohmann making his return to the Brisbane team. Ty Gallop, James Tunstall, Dara Joyce and Oscar McInerney, the big returns to the extended bench. Out goes Jared Berry with a shoulder injury, and Eric Hipwood, who has suffered a calf injury and is likely to miss the next 3 to 4 weeks. On the Hawthorn side of things, you've got 3 inclusions to their extended bench: Cam McKenzie, Sam Butler, and Ned Reeves. 8.5 points. That's the margin. That tells me they don't have a damn clue who's going to win this one. Hawthorn are the team in form. Now, I know I said a couple of weeks ago Hawthorn cannot win the flag, but there has been material change, okay? I think I get a mulligan on this one. Isaac Rankin is going to miss the finals series, okay? And Josh Weddle might be back for the finals series. That's a big change. Add in the fact that they destroyed Collingwood. Add in the fact that they're bloody Hawthorn. They're Hawthorn. They're always around the mark. I say I don't think they can win the flag because I don't want them to win the flag. They're too good. They're the most successful team in the history of the AFL era. They're the most successful team since, 1960? Okay, this team just gets it bloody done. Will I get it done on Sunday night? That I'm not sure of. We know how well Brisbane have been playing over the last 8 weeks. We know how well their win was against Fremantle over in Perth, but their home form has been a bit scratchy this year, hasn't it? They've had a couple of disastrous home losses. Will it happen once again in front of their home crowd with everything to play for? I don't think so. I think Brisbane will just get the job done. It should be an absolutely cracking contest. From a betting side of things, I like my man Jasper Fletcher. I like him for the Norm Smith medal at 151 to 1. But to have 20 touches in this game at a nice price of $1.40 is not something I'm going to ignore. No, you should not either. He's been hitting this line just about every single week. Just went over to Perth and had a career best game. I know it's Zorko's 300th game. He's going to get his touches too. But Fletch and Zorko are two of their great designated kickers coming off the halfback line, coming out of the stoppage in the midfield as they're extra, just rolling around the back of packs. I like Fletcher 20-plus touches. Hawthorn side of things, I don't mind Impey and Aim on there. They're not great prices, but if you multi Fletcher, Impey, and Amon together, you get $2 to all have 19 disposals on the TAB. Impey and Amon will be crucial in their ball movement. They're two of their better players. They're two flying halfback flankers, which will be really crucial in challenging Brisbane's defense and the intercept marking of Harris Andrews. So I think they're going to have strong games where they get a lot of the pill. Brisbane, I think, just win this game, but it should be an absolutely enthralling contest. I'll be side by side with my great friend Marcus, who's also in a couple of Supercoach Grand Finals and is a Hawthorn supporter, so I cannot wait to watch it all unfold on Sunday night. That's it. That's the preview show. I honestly think that is the best show we've done here at Slam Talk Sports. I didn't stuff up more than 5 times. I didn't mumble more than 10 times. I even had time to drink my soy latte out of a Star Wars mug, okay? That's how well we're traveling at the moment at Slam Talk Sports, okay? That's it. That's it for the Friday preview show. That's all the footy action you need to know about. Weekend sports. Besides the footy, there's a couple of things going on. Besides the Guts Up Cup, we've got EPL. We've got EPL once again on Channel 9, 9:30. City play Tottenham on 9 and on Stan. That will be a must-watch, considering the only game of football on is West Coast and bloody Sydney, okay? So it will be time to watch some soccer. And I must mention, Supercoach, I'm doing all right. I'm in 5 grand finals. Haven't started that well because I was at Kako, got 100 on me in a granny, which is like, what the hell? What did I do to deserve that? But in Supercoach EPL, I'm currently ranked 204th, which is pretty good, considering I know absolutely nothing about soccer other than the fact that Liverpool are the greatest club that ever existed. That's all I ever know. That's all I know about soccer, that Liverpool are the GOATs. At Supercoach EPL, I'm doing all right, okay? I'm doing all right. Soccer on this weekend, EPL wall-to-wall across the whole weekend. And you got footy starting on Thursday last night all the way to Sunday night. There's a game on Wednesday. I will not acknowledge that. I do not think that's a real game. When Essendon lose by 1,000 points, you will not hear me speak about it. But besides that, there's plenty of sports on for you to enjoy this weekend. I will see you all on... Let's do a Monday show. Let's do a Monday recap, if not a Tuesday morning recap of what was a huge round 24. But until then... enjoy the sports, watch them all. I hope you do well with your bets, with your Supercoach, just whatever you're doing in life, I hope you do well. This was Slam Talk Sports. You know where to find me, Slam Talk Sports on Instagram and TikTok, Darcy_Duncan21 on Twitter, where I'll be dropping my betting selections this afternoon/evening before the 7-10 game. But most importantly, just enjoy the sports, enjoy the ones you love, and have a great time doing it. I'll see you all next week. Slam out!